Hey everybody, it's Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society, and it's a very exciting day because it's our first ever interview. And who do we
Hey,
have with us? It's Arne Venema.
you said my name correctly, good sir. That's 10 points for you right there.
Yay! We'll have to put a point tally on the screen.
Yeah, it's at the bottom. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and I do have to say that the first time I ever said your name, I mispronounced it, and you corrected me on a YouTube comment.
Yeah, but then you got see the thing is then you go, oh, okay, you got it right. There's people who I've known for years who don't know my name. There's a guy I knew in a bar for ages, and he just kept mispronouncing my name every time. And then eventually I was like, okay, I'm just not going to bother correcting. One day I heard someone else say it, and he goes, well, why is he saying your name like that? I go, that's my name. He's like, why'd you never correct me? He's like, well, I corrected you times, but and it's my fault too, which is amazing. So yeah,
They just give up on correcting you, right?
yeah. So it's like basically I just gave up at some point. So
So filmmaker and musician, I guess, is that a good introduction
filmmaker,
for you?
musician, writing, writer as well, yeah.
So speaking of writing, you wrote a list of 10 Hong Kong horror films for us.
I did.
Which I posted recently. And so I thought we could start by just talking about why you picked what you picked and kind of go through the movies.
Awesome idea. Well, yeah, okay. So the list I picked, it's basically I'm a huge horror fan. Like my good partner Mike Leader, who I do the audio commentaries with, he's really into the action stuff. He likes horror stuff too, but he's really into the action stuff and everything else. But I'm more into the horror stuff and the science fiction stuff and everything else. And basically, the list I picked was there was some historical context to it, but it also was an aspect of which one of these movies best kind of say something about Hong Kong society as well, like what it's like to live here. So that there's an element of that in there. So having lived in Hong Kong for 10 plus years, I've kind of weaved that in here a bit. So I think you want to read off the names of the films I picked, or should I?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know I wrote them all down right here. So
let's go one by one, and I'll talk about each one.
So, and actually, the first one I'm really excited to talk about, and because I think I told you I watched this for the first time last night. Yes. And I loved it.
It's wild, isn't it?
It's so good. The movie is Vampire's Breakfast.
Very cool title too.
And I was thinking about the title after I watched it, and I'm like, I don't know if it has anything to do with the movie. But
nothing to do with the movie whatsoever.
I like it.
Typical. It's really good. Well, you've got to understand that the way that, because these titles in Chinese, I don't know the Cantonese title for Vampire's Breakfast. I do confess, but a lot of times when they come up with these titles, one of two things happens. Like either they just make something up because they think it sounds cool, and sometimes the guy making it up, it's just like these two words work together, or it's like be like a film will be popular at the time. Say it's like Breakfast Club. They go, well, that's popular in the market, that title, so we'll just throw that together. So Vampire's Breakfast. I'm not saying they use Breakfast Club, but that's kind of goes. I was speaking to Godfrey Ho about a film called Ninja Terminator that he did. I know Godfrey fairly well. Wonderful man, highly underrated filmmaker. He at my wedding and all, I love him to bits. And I go, Godfrey, why is the film Ninja Terminator called Ninja Terminator? Because he used to, for reference purposes, he used to get films that kind of failed throughout the Asian region, like from the Philippines or whatever. And then he'd splice in 20 minutes of new like ninja footage and make a ninja film out of it. He basically was remixing movies.
Which is genius, right? Like,
I think that's pretty genius.
Yeah.
Oh man, he pumped out so many movies in such a short time. He's made films in his own right, which are really cool. And basically what happened was, well, we called it Ninja Terminator because Terminator was popular at the time. What? And he goes, yeah, Terminator was popular. James Cameron's Terminator, really cool movie. So I called Ninja Terminator because everybody wanted stuff to do with Terminator. And I go, did it sell well? He goes, oh, it did so well. He says, it did so
it's an awesome title. So yeah.
So it's really interesting because it's one of the few Hong Kong films. Hong Kong has its own vampire. It's called the Gongxia. And it's like a hopping vampire. You see them in the films we'll talk more about films. You see that in later on. But it's very rare to really see westernized vampires in Hong Kong films. So it happened in Vampire's Breakfast. And it's also pretty gory, some pretty gory scenes in that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, especially the some of the makeup effects are pretty wild too.
Yeah. So maybe you can get Simon Wilson on your show. He actually played the vampire, except for the stunt scenes. He's interesting because he's actually really like, he's kind of a prim and proper guy, and in the meantime, he's like ripping some girl's throat off in like a movie. He's like, oh yeah, so he's got a very British accent, And there have been some other instances in which Western vampires have shown up in Hong Kong films. One is Kung Fu Beyond the Grave. I think I should send you a clip of that.
Yeah, when Dracula shows up randomly.
Yeah. No reason whatsoever. And this is why you gotta love Hong Kong cinema. Anything can happen. You know what I'm saying? Especially the earlier stuff. Like, so yeah, they're summoning stuff, and just Dracula just shows up. It's like the screenwriter standing there and goes, the producer probably was like, well, Dracula's popular, put him in there. And the producer and the screenwriter be like, what, you just want me to write Dracula in there? Yes, write Dracula in there. So they just got a Westerner, and all of a sudden Dracula shows up. And that's amazing, you know. And but it's not the first time that's actually really happened. There actually was a time that Shaw Brothers worked with Hammer films. They made like you know, a lot of stuff with Peter Cushing and all that stuff. And there's a film called Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires.
Right. Is David Chang in that movie? Am I misremembering that?
Well, well, the crazy thing is Peter Cushing's in it, that's for sure. And Godfrey Ho, I mentioned earlier, Chung Che directed it. And Godfrey Ho, I mentioned earlier, actually worked on that movie as well.
Oh, wow.
So when he was still at Shaw Brothers. So that was, it's not super rare, but where it gets really crazy is with Filmmark, who kind of Godfrey has a weird connection with as well. And they did a movie called Robo Vampire.
I've seen the artwork for that on like Instagram.
Yeah, so basically about bringing Western characters into Chinese or Hong Kong films, I should say, especially with hopping vampires in this case. You have RoboCop. Yes, they basically have RoboCop fighting Chinese vampires.
That's amazing.
It's called Robo Vampire, but it's not the RoboCop you know. Oh no, it's a guy in like a spray painted plastic suit. You've got to see this to believe this. And they were like, freaking put RoboCop in the film. So again, that screenwriter's like, you just want me to write RoboCop in the movie? He goes, yeah. So RoboCop's in the movie, and you gotta love this, you know. I mean,
that's amazing.
It's so special, and it's a time that copyrights weren't like as infringed, because back in the day when people told me this here back in the day, okay, I've generally heard this from people. If someone called up about copyright issues in Hong Kong, they pick up the phone, they speak English, they go, hello, Filmmark, and they go, oh yeah, we're from America and we want to talk about copyrights. I'm sick of and they just hang up the phone. You know, I don't speak English. I'm like, what are you talking about? And hang up the phone. Nowadays with the internet, you can't do that shit.
It's a lot harder, right? Yeah,
it's a lot harder. But back then, they'd be like, we speak very good English until
someone calls about it, right?
Until someone writes, I don't speak English. Like,
that's amazing.
And they've openly told me stuff like this, so it's really funny, and they laugh about it. But you know, those films I kind of miss those, because those films have a type of magic. And when you went to the cinema back then, like, just for reference sake, I've spent most of my I've lived in Hong Kong longer than anywhere else, but growing up I was living in parts of Europe. But every summer, my mom was born and raised in Thailand. Like, we went to Thailand, and I sometimes would come across these films, and I really miss going to the cinema and watching something, and all of a sudden just being like, what the hell is going on? Like, is that you know, you just see crazy stuff on the screen. So yeah,
I definitely miss that, you know, like that sense of anything can happen, which I feel has gone from so many movies now.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of see it with some Wong Jing films still, because Wong Jing is literally like part of the old guard who's very much around and still making those movies, and he does a lot of crazy stuff. But I wish that would come back. I think Japanese cinema has more of that edge nowadays. Like Japanese cinema does like a lot of cool stuff. But I hope there'll be a time when Hong Kong cinema will come back. You know, I think one of the very few positive sides of the global pandemic we have right now is I think it might somehow help Hong Kong cinema to get some sort of a reset. So, because I think it was kind of needed. And maybe we'll see something coming out of this, which will be positive, or maybe not. I don't know.
So I mean, it remains to be seen, right? But hopefully,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully I'll have some sort of win. But anyway, yeah, Vampire's Breakfast, really fun, pretty violent for Hong Kong. Shot kind of cool, like some good lighting.
Yeah, I
and stuff
really like the atmosphere of it and the feel of it, and I also really like the fact that it's like some very cheesy like 80s romance moments between Ken
so
Chang
80s.
and like like the montage where they're getting ready for their date. So
yeah. I mean, it's 80s tastic. You know what I'm saying? I've mentioned this in audio commentary sometimes. I call that time capsule film. Like, you kind of get to travel to the past, but a lot of my films on this list kind of have that. I mean, the films I picked are very much from the glory days of. A lot of them from the glory days of Hong Kong cinema. We're talking late 70s, 80s, and 90s. So but that's a really fun time capsule. It's great fun. It's really cool. A lot of good stuff. Yeah. So Vampire's Breakfast. Check it
Vampire's Breakfast. Yeah. So next up we have, which is a movie that you sent me, but I haven't watched yet.
out. Yeah.
Because the reason is that I found, so the movie is Haunted Karaoke.
Yes,
and
Haunted Karaoke.
I found an English subtitle file for this movie.
Cool.
And it's completely off from where the movie starts. It's like minutes off. So I was trying to like sync them up, and it was just like a disaster.
I wonder if that's the modern day version of getting a really shoddy VHS tape and then being and trying to
sync the crappy sounds.
What's going on here? Like, yeah, I think he's saying that. You know, the dub's kind of off and everything else.
Yeah.
So Haunted Karaoke. Now a lot of people might be like, why the hell would Arne Venema pick Haunted Karaoke? Because I've seen quite a few films, and the reason for it goes back to my initial statement is like, I wanted to pick films which I think were fun. And the film gets a lot of flack online, which I think is kind of unfair because it is a bit of a silly title. It literally says what's on the box, though. I mean, it is about a haunted karaoke, building and stuff like that, or a parlor, whatever you want to call it, residence. Look, you're not going to get a film called Haunted Karaoke about a haunted karaoke space in like America. Okay, they're never going to make that. It's like be like, Steven Spielberg's new film is not going to be called Haunted Karaoke. It's not going to happen. Be, though. It'd be amazing. That'd be an amazing career turn.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how his fans would react to it, but like I'd watch it. But anyhow, Haunted Karaoke, directed by Billy Tang. Billy Tang is one of those. He'll come. We'll talk more about him throughout this list. But Billy Tang is one of those guys who he makes films which have a bit of a dark edge, but his cinematography again is quite interesting. And Haunted Karaoke I picked because it's again one of those Hong Kong films where you've literally stuffed everything in the kitchen sink into it. I mean, you've got ghost elements in it. You've got kind of like the haunted karaoke features. It's a bit more like Demons. It kind of reminds me of an Italian film called Demons. If you've ever seen that, it's a really great exploitation film about a haunted movie theater, which we'll talk a little bit about in a bit. So Haunted Karaoke has it has ghosts, there's demons, demonic possession. It has shotguns. It has it has like martial arts in it, and it has a lot of elements that Hong Kong society kind of associate with the supernatural. Like General Gong, for example, he's the red face with the big he's in that as well. And there's a lot of elements like that. It's kind of goofy and stuff like that, but a lot of Hong Kong films are kind of like that. Again, this was a Wong Jing film, as I mentioned Wong Jing earlier, so he likes kind of like this stuff, it's a couple of drops of nudity in there as well. So it's kind of an exploitation film, but it literally has like so much going on in it. You're like, whoa, what is this? And it features something that's very, very, very Hong Kong. And it's something that I don't really think anybody's termed properly. So I'm going to term it right now. I like to call it Hong Kong blue. And it's a thing that a lot of Hong Kong films do where they bask everything with a blue light, or sometimes they do it in post with color processing, or a bit of both. And it gives everything like a bluey, spooky tone. And you see that in a lot of scary Hong Kong films during nighttime and everything else. Some of them go really over the top with it. Some of them, do it less, but that Hong Kong blue tone is very common, and you see it a lot in this. And it also has this weird like Hong Kong sense of comedy and horror combined and everything else. So yeah, it's an interesting film, and it's a subgenre of Hong Kong ghost films almost. These weird comedy horror films are kind of cheesy, kind of fun, but this one's shot really well. Other examples of films like that are Believe It or Not. There's another film out there called Last Ghost Standing, which is kind of similar to this film as well, and is very much like the Italian film we mentioned, Demons, in which the exact same thing happens. Ghosts invade a cinema at China during New Year's.
Sounds awesome.
Basically, you've got a cinema full of ghosts running around and everything else, and it stars a guy, and I think it's based on his book, named Simon Loy. He'll come up again in this this little talk we're having here. But Haunted Karaoke and again Last Ghost Standing, both taking place in venues that are very Hong Kong. Hong Kongers love the cinema, and Hong Kongers love like karaoke. They're absolutely obsessed with it, to the extent that I think karaoke is almost taking the place of people going to the cinema. I've heard some people say it. That's why people attending the cinema is going down a bit. It's like some filmmakers actually look down on karaoke for that.
Really?
It's kind of interesting. Yeah. I've heard a few filmmakers who go, oh yeah, they're all going to karaoke instead of watching a movie. Karaoke you do anywhere. You can sing anywhere. When you sing in the shower, but you can't attend the cinema. Like, you know,
I
stuff like
agree
that.
with that assessment though.
Sure, yeah, no, I agree with it too. Like, I've gone to karaoke like 3 times in Hong Kong, and I do not, like, I'm not a fan. If
You're not a
for
big
other people,
karaoke
yeah,
fan?
sure,
Yeah.
but I do like haunted karaoke, so watch that movie.
Yes, cha-ching. So I have to ask you, because you sent me Sifu versus Vampire.
Yes.
Is the craziness of that movie at all like Haunted Karaoke? Because Wong Jing wrote Sifu versus Vampire, didn't he?
Wong. Okay, so Haunted Karaoke is an older film. Obviously, Sifu versus Vampire is newer.
It's pretty recent, right? Yeah.
It's pretty recent, yeah. Uh, it has the Wong Jing flavor to it. So before, when I mentioned, yeah, Wong Jing kind of does that. Yeah, that's Sifu versus Vampire is a good example of like, what in the world's going on now?
I
You've
love
also
that
got,
movie.
yeah, you've also got to understand that a lot of Hong Kong films don't have traditionalist scripts like American films do. So basically, Hong Kong scripts, I mean, there can be proper scripts. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure Infernal Affairs had a proper script, but something like Sifu versus Vampire or like Haunted Karaoke or, films like that, a lot of Wong Jing productions kind of have an outline that he kind of writes, because he writes a lot of films. And they kind of on set, it's almost like jazz music. They kind of make stuff up. And if there is some sort of script, they might change it like that because, oh, this actor can be here or whatever else. So they change those things up pretty quickly. And I think that's one of the reasons that Sifu versus Vampire is a bit wild at times, to say the least. Like, you know, yes. I mean, the opening scene in the bedroom and everything else.
It's so good.
It's like, what in the world is going on here? I think you're speaking to Mike Chan as well. Like,
yeah, I've been emailing with him. Yep.
Yeah, he's like the king vampire. I've known Mike Chan since film school. I met him in the weirdest way. I had to do my graduation film in film school, and the guy who was supposed to be on my graduation film, he booked his first commercial. So he was like, "I got a commercial for a really good brand. I can't do your thing because this guy's giving me money." I'm like, damn it. So Godfrey Ho actually was a lecturer at that school. And I went up to Godfrey, oh man, I lost my lead actor. He goes, that's no problem. You can replace them. Just find someone else. And I was like, there's an acting class. And I was like, okay, cool. He says, an acting class at this and this time, because I was in the director producer program. There's an acting and editors program. There's a acting class at this time. You're going to go to that acting class and you just find somebody cool. So I walk up to the acting class and I stood outside it because I couldn't go inside. I stood outside. I was like, okay, the first person that walks out of there, I'm going to approach them. I'm going to see if they want to be in my film. And as one dude walked out, and I took one look at him and go, no, wait. And then the next guy walked out, and that was Mike Chan. He goes, that guy's a good look. So he walked up and goes, look, hey, I'm a director here. I have to do my final year short film. You don't know me. I don't know you, but could you please be in my graduation film? Because if I don't fucking do this, I got to do this to graduate. Everything's already set up. You've got 3 days to learn the lines, because it's like a 25-minute thing, and it's shot over a few days. So, and he just looked at me, not ever met me, and he goes, okay. He just, nice. And in hindsight, he told me he thought it was really weird, but in hindsight, he was like, well, this is like the weirdest thing ever, and he doesn't look insane, and I know he's going to do a graduation film. I should be in one, so I guess I'll do it. And I kind of met Mike, who became one of my best friends in the whole wide world, and actually ended up being my best man at my wedding while shooting my graduation film. So awesome. we didn't know each other from Adam, and then I started shooting that, and I was directing him and everything else, and then we became really good friends when we graduated from film school. We just kept shooting stuff together, and then and he's the king vampire in Sifu versus Vampire.
That's great.
But he's a really nice guy, Canadian Chinese guy. Dear friend of mine. And he's got a lot of fun stories about making that movie. So. Yeah,
he told me a couple. I asked him about it over email, and he told me a couple really fun stories about it. Yeah, so I'm excited to talk to him.
And he can definitely tell you what it was like working in the environment of Sifu versus Vampire, because he was there. I wasn't there, but I suspect things were changed up here and there and everything else. But yeah, that film is wild and it's fun.
It's so crazy.
So it's out of this world. Yeah, it's good.
So next on your list, Seeding of a Ghost.
Right.
Which is, I think I told you, I was watching this movie and my wife came home, and my wife hates horror movies.
And she was like, what the hell is this?
Exactly. Yeah. She was turn this off immediately. And I did, and I never finished it.
Okay. So Seeding of a Ghost. Well, it's kind of interesting. Seeding of the Ghost. It's just this weird period in which Shaw Brothers were like, we're going to make some really messed up, horror films. I wish they kept doing that, because Seeding of a Ghost is crazy. It's a pity you didn't finish it, because my favorite bit of the film is the last 20 minutes, because it goes batshit crazy in the last 20 minutes. Like, it's seriously violent. It kind of reminds me of a Sam Raimi film, like an Evil Dead film. In the last 20 minutes, it gets really crazy. Again, shotguns come into play. So whenever a shotgun comes out, you know your times are fun. And it's kind of the time that made the Boxer Omen as well.
Oh,
which is,
yeah.
It's got this weird body horror theme going on and everything else. And it's a weird movie, and it's really over the top. It's got some early special effects in it, in which I think, like, you know, it's super early stuff. It's a cool film, and there's some parts of it that are genuinely disgusting. So
you can't go wrong with that.
I quite like that movie. And it also features Philip Ko in the film, who he passed away a few years ago. And he is one of my favorite Hong Kong villainous, nasty, mean character actors. Apparently, he's a really I never had the chance to meet him. I almost met him once, but something else came up, and he passed away. And from what I understand, Mike Leader definitely has met him. He'll tell you more about him. He was the meanest, baddest, most vile man on film. And then when you meet him in real life, he's like a teddy bear. He's like the nicest dude. Guy, he's like, oh yeah, he's really considered nice guy. Spoke pretty good English apparently. Really nice guy. And we actually did an audio commentary for a Blu-ray label called The Vengeance Pack recently for a film called The Man from Holland.
I saw the trailer for that.
Yeah. And he plays a lead in that. And that film it's not a horror film, but if you like Hong Kong Grindhouse sleaze, that is Hong Kong Grindhouse sleaze right there.
When I saw the trailer,
it is. Dude, it is such a crazy movie. Like I hadn't seen that movie in ages, and then they were like, "Well, a man from Holland. You're from Holland. You should do the audio." I was like, "Yeah, of course, sure." So, by the way, hello, Americo. And
that's a great association for them to make. Well, you have to do this.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I think I have to. And then I kind of vaguely knew the film. It has a couple of the titles. But yeah, Man from Holland is a really crazy film. Philip Ko is in that, and he's in Seeding of a Ghost. And it's really cool. An alternate pick I almost made for Seeding of a Ghost. Seeding of a Ghost has revenge elements in it, and I like that because I mean, I guess Haunted Karaoke kind of has, but Seeding of a Ghost is a serious kind of like Hong Kong revenge film, and there's it's a kind of an unknown Hong Kong movie out there, and I never heard anybody talk about it, called New Blood, which is a cool Hong Kong revenge film about. It's a really interesting premise. The film starts out with a couple trying to commit suicide together because the man and the woman's got terminal illness, and they decide to, they make a suicide pact. They decide to split their wrists. It starts out like that. They decide to split their wrists. But then the paramedics arrive. The woman passes away, but the man survives by getting blood donations from 3 individuals. And then what happens throughout the rest of the film, the man's like, not doing well. He's in hospital. But those 3 individuals who saved his life get haunted by the girlfriend who actually died.
Oh, wow.
Because the suicide pact didn't happen. And the film has a very bizarre, creepy undertone to it. It's quite a unique film. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. It's called New Blood. Like, if you can find it, give it a shot.
I've never even heard of that one, honestly. I'm definitely going to try to find that.
I have. It's a unique film. It's not perfect. But it's got a vibe to it which you don't see in a lot of Hong Kong films, and there's some scenes in it which are genuinely creepy. So
that sounds great. Yeah.
So that almost became my opposite pick, but Seeding of a Ghost, the last 20 minutes won it over. It's so wild, it's so fun. It's got Philip Ko, it's Shaw Brothers, and I'm kind of a bit of affinity because Shaw Studios and everything else. So
okay. I feel like I have a moral obligation to finish that movie now.
I think every man should watch Seeding of a Ghost at least once in their life.
Okay.
Should make it mandatory in schools. Okay, everybody.
Here's that day.
Seeding of a Ghost. It's that day. Last 20 minutes, just watching kids vomiting over their desks because it's so gruesome. My work is done here. I'm moving on.
Oh man, that sounds amazing.
It is amazing. So yeah, Seeding of a Ghost is crazy for the last 20 minutes. New Blood is a film that a lot of people don't know about, but is fun. Is good, and check those out, man. They're really good fun.
So next up you have a very famous movie, I think, right?
Yeah,
Mr. Vampire.
Yes, Mr. Vampire. Well, here's the thing. My whole list was a bit off the wall, right? So I figured, well, I'll put in one film that's more of a classic. Of course, Golden Harvest, Mr. Vampire. Very famous film. Has the traditional Guernsey, as we mentioned before, the hopping vampires, for which you have to hold your breath, because if you hold your breath, they can't see you, because
they're blind, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're more or less blind. Yeah, well, their eyes are rotted out apparently, but like
I mean, it's a detail that makes a lot of sense logically.
Yeah. So again, an alternate pick for this was Sifu versus Vampire. That was my alternate pick. There's other films that kind of like it, like Rigor Mortis is a more modern version of that. It's been jazzed up though, a lot darker and creepier. Magic Cop is really good as well. If it's kind of a harder film to find, but it kind of falls a bit in the Mr. Vampire universe, but not, because a lot of the main similar characters are in there. And there's also Encounters of the Spooky Kind. Now, some people are like, oh, Encounters of the Spooky Kind has to be on every list. Well, first of all, I prefer Mr. Vampire. And second of all, if I'm going to make a list, those two films, both Golden Harvest, both involving Sammo Hung. I mean, Sammo Hung starred in Encounters of the Spooky Kind, but he produced Mr. Vampire. Okay. So, I mean, I kind of felt in the same ballpark for me. So, but I picked Mr. Vampire because, well, it's Mr. Vampire. Like, that's a cool thing. Interesting story. While they were shooting Mr. Vampire, they almost shot an English-speaking version at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So they'd have the Hong Kong actors there, because they were like, Raymond Chow's English market, I could do something. So they have the Hong Kong actors there. They shoot the scene. Yes, well, no. Most producers are like this, like I can make a buck. Anyhow, but like, what was I gonna say?
The English
version, so basically, they had the Cantonese or Hong Kong actors there, and they shoot the scene, and they go, okay, you step aside, and the English actors step in, and they start doing the English bits as well. So, there is footage of this out there that exists, but it's in the vaults of Golden Harvest.
Should we raid the vaults and try to find it?
It's doing that stuff in Hong Kong is always a bit political and trying to get it, but I'd love for someone to do that. Hey, look, if someone in Golden Harvest is willing to let me raid those vaults, and Mike Leader, of course, as well.
Yeah,
he's if it's on a high shelf, he can reach them. I'm not very tall, but like if it's I'm not sure to the extent of how much of the film, the English version, they shot. There's different stories I've heard. I've heard that they only did a couple scenes. I've heard that they did half the film, depending on who you ask. But Mike Lederer, if you ask him about this, he'll definitely talk about this as well. It's one of those, lost Hong Kong mystery things that's out there. And there's a lot of movies like that kind of in Hong Kong, like missing scenes from famous films and everything else. But yeah, so I picked Mr. Vampire because A, it's a classic. B, I saw it before Encounters of the Spooky Kind. And C, there's a mystery around it, and I like a good mystery, especially around Halloween. Yeah. So
it makes me think of that story. Makes me think of the. I just recently rewatched the 1931 Dracula with Bela Lugosi.
Sure, Bela Lugosi, yes, and there's a Mexican version of it.
Yeah, they filmed it.
Yeah.
At night on the same sets. Yeah, so the Blu-ray that I have has both versions of it, and it's really funny to watch them side by side.
And what's funny is I've heard a lot of big horror buffs say they actually prefer the Mexican version of it.
Yeah, so I was just reading after I watched them both the other day that what they did was the crew that shot the Spanish language one would get to see the footage from the English one. And they'd be like, we can do this better. And then they would go and do it. Yeah. So
what a way, I mean, we kind of have that on film. When I shoot stuff here, like I shoot stuff with an iPhone sometimes ahead of time. So it's like previs almost. But then you or with a lower end camera, like a DSLR, before you pull out the Reds or the Aries or whatever. And then you kind of have a previs of kind of what you want to do. It helps you shoot faster as well, because you know all your shots and stuff. But I think that's a similar thing where you go, that's a cool idea, but maybe I can improve it later on and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a technique that's used here as well.
I've heard that, what's his face? Is it Gareth Evans? He did The Raid, right? Is that his name? Yeah, I heard that he does that. Like he'll just like in his kitchen, just like shoot like action scenes and stuff, so he knows exactly what to shoot.
The Godfrey Ho has done it with toy figures, even.
Oh wow, really?
It's like kind of with a small camera. He's like, just try that as well. So basically, because they shot really fast back in the day, so it's like everything's edited in camera. There's no like, you can cut away to this or that. I
remember you telling me that. Yeah,
and done on the fly.
I just think that's super cool because I mean, so much of I've been on like short films and like I've acted in like some of my friends' movies, like really small stuff. But
yes,
it's always this process of like, now we have 15,000 hours of footage and we're going to spend like 11 months editing it. And it's like, you're just waiting for something to happen. Like,
I think the Hong Kong technique, I mean, a lot of editing is done in camera. So basically you shoot faster, you edit faster, but there's no safety net, you have to know what you're doing. Yeah. And if you're a director, you have to know how to edit, because otherwise the editor is going to like, if you're going to have an editor, like he's going to just lose his mind. So
yeah, I think that was. I'm just rambling. I'm sorry, but that was one of Kurosawa's big things. Is you can't direct if you don't know how to edit, because then you have no idea what you're doing.
In Hong Kong, they'll that's a big part of Hong Kong cinema. Like you better know how to edit some of your stuff as well. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Mr. Vampire. I'm sorry. Oh, going on about Mr. Vampire. Yes. So if you want to go really left field and you want to see something involving hopping vampires, and it's in the Mr. Vampire world, believe it or not.
Okay.
They made a Mr. Vampire film in Africa.
What?
It's called Crazy Safari. And it features African bushmen, including our famous, I'm not going to pronounce his name because it's really hard to pronounce it. And it's, but he was also in The Gods Must Be Crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen that film.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it combines Mr. Vampire and The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Oh my God. This sounds amazing.
It's called Crazy Safari. It's an okay film, kind of hard to find. And later on, Crazy Hong Kong was an offshoot of that again, in which the Bushmen came to Hong Kong.
Oh,
but Crazy Safari is literally Chinese hopping, going to see vampires in the bush in Africa. This is a movie that was made. It
sounds amazing.
So yeah, it's out there. Hard to find. But I have a copy. But really, like, a lot of people don't know about that movie, and when you see it, you're like, what?
Yes.
How did this happen? So, but interesting. I like stuff like that. So yeah, that is a wild one. Crazy Safari.
Okay.
There you go.
So, well, and speaking of crazy and wild, it looks like next on our list, we have Wicked City.
Wicked City.
So, and I think we talked recently about how I just within like the last year saw the anime version of this movie.
I love that movie.
Neo-noir so anime. Good. Yeah. So do you know whether is this based on the anime or the book that the anime was based on?
Okay, so I actually asked Troy Hark himself, who was a producer on the film and may have directed stuff here and there.
Okay.
May have. You to be to judge, and he just giggled. But anyhow, but like it Troy Hark's a wonderful guy. He so basically I asked him about it, and I go, okay, is this based on the book, the anime? He goes, no, ours is based more on the book. So the anime actually, the Japanese anime took more liberties. By the way, that anime originally was a lot shorter, and then the producers liked it so much they pumped extra money into it for the director to make it longer as well.
Oh, wow.
So
I mean, I can imagine seeing that footage and being like, "Oh, I need more of this. This is insane."
Yeah, it's neo-noir anime. Like, and Kawajiri, who directed that stuff, is really fantastic, and he does a lot more respect. He actually made a film. He actually did a Hong Kong. There's a Hong Kong animation studio here. What were they called? I have to remember the name. But there's a Hong Kong animation, and he made an anime in Hong Kong as well.
Oh wow, I didn't.
So. So, but it was only one. I'll remember the name in a bit. But Imaji was the name of the company. Sorry, and they made an anime. And he made an anime here in Hong Kong. But in terms of Wicked City, what happened there was Choi Hark became aware of the novel and everything else. He was aware of the anime as well, because he'd seen the anime beforehand. And Choi Hark loves comics. He likes to draw and everything else. He's a big comic book head, so he definitely was aware of the anime. But he decided to go closer to the book. But if you look at the movie in terms of cinematography, it's definitely being inspired by the anime in terms of color code and everything else that. Because the anime is got the blue. The Hong Kong blue thing already is a thing, as I mentioned earlier on. And Wicked City's, I think there's 2 cinematographers on it, and it looks freaking amazing, that movie. Like,
does it really? I've only seen like small clips from it. Yeah.
The live action version's crazy. There's some early CGI stuff, but the movie's wild, and the dub is one of my favorite dubs ever. There's some really awkward scenes in that. At one point, like, one guy says to another guy, "Do you like boxing?" The response is like, "No, I like girls." And it's like, okay, that's kind of an answer to the dude's question, but not at the same time.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, do you like boxing? No, I like girls. Okay, you've kind of answered my question, but like, I think this is from a different line from another movie. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, it's very, very strange, but really, really fun. And Wicked City is great, and it's a very Choi Hark looking film. Really cool camera angles, even out of drain pipes. The cameras are very fluid, moving very much like a Choi Hark film, but he produced this movie.
Yeah.
A lot of really interesting camera movements, good use of color, good acting, good fun.
Did they try to do like all the, or I guess not try, but did they do all like the insane stuff that's in the anime, like the Spider-Woman and the?
So the Spider-Woman's in the opening scene. Spider-Woman's kind of in there, but it's very much a puppet-looking thing. But there are some other scenes involving a pinball machine and a motorcycle that has to be seen to be believed. I'm not going to explain it here, but yeah, you're gonna have to watch this because this is good. This is crazy, and there's a lot of really cool, like, yeah, you know what? Watch the film. I don't want to spoil it.
Don't tell me.
You go watch that movie and you'll love it. So
an alternate to that,
an alternate to that I almost picked was another Hong Kong movie, another Shaw Brothers movie called Oily Maniac.
Oh, I've seen that one. Yeah.
Oily Maniac is, well, I don't want to spoil too much of it, but again, they're both kind of monster movies, and you don't see a lot of like those really monster-like movies in Hong Kong. Hong Kong likes ghosts and like gangsies and stuff like that, but in terms of monsters, you don't really see it. Yeah, I mean, you're Peking Man and stuff like that. You have that, but like you don't see that too much. So I was picking between those two, but you know what? If it's Choi Hark, I'm gonna go with Choi Hark. He wins.
That's it, right? So, yeah.
So it looks cool.
Do like American monster movies do well in Hong Kong, or do they not even come out, or do like people like that stuff? They just don't make it.
No. People like that stuff. Godzilla is popular in Hong Kong as well from Japan, I'm fairly sure that. Let me think. I mean, what was that film again? That there's a whole bunch of them. Sorry, I'm missing a beat here. It starts as found footage film in the first one, and they made two other ones on Netflix as well.
Cloverfield?
Cloverfield, yeah. The first Cloverfield here was popular.
Okay.
Cloverfield did well. I was in the cinema and people were loving it. They're like really, and Hong Kong cinema audiences sometimes get really interactive. Like, ooh, whoa, that,
Oh, that's fun.
It's really,
yeah.
It's really fun. So they like, Cloverfield was one of my favorite viewings ever in Hong Kong. People were loving that stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
Godzilla is very, very popular here. So that does well. And then also like, what's it called? The film with I'm just drawing a blank today. The film with the giant robots is a very
Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim did pretty well here. A lot of people complained you couldn't see too much underwater, but they like Pacific Rim, and I mean that has monster elements in it. Yeah, so those films, Hellboy did pretty well here too. So
I love Guillermo del Toro. So
yeah. So that stuff does well. Hong Kong people like that stuff, and I think part of it is that because a lot of society here still, I mean, you can have someone who's like a proper lawyer or whatever else, like really well educated, but there's still a belief in the supernatural to some extent. It's quite a bit. I mean, we have ghost festivals here and everything else. So maybe that's part of the reason why. But yeah, Hong Kong people, they like monster movies. They're cool.
Sweet.
So yeah.
So that's Wicked City. So next we have Ebola Syndrome.
And he enters the list. The greatest, my favorite horror pair. Anthony Wong Chao-san. Anthony Wong. In my opinion, Hong Kong's best actor ever. Okay, I'm just going to declare right there. He's also a hardcore exploitation actor, character actor, but he's done more serious roles in which he's absolutely fantastic, such as Beast Cops and everything else.
I mostly know him from like Johnny To movies.
He's in Johnny To films as well. Yeah, he's one of the Johnny To guys, and everybody who Johnny To works basically has to they have to have their acting chops in there. I mean, Johnny To is like a bit like Hong Kong's Kurosawa in a weird way. Like he really knows how to move the camera and everything else, and he's an epic filmmaker. But this is Anthony Wong working with Herman Yao, and Anthony Wong and Herman Yao made a trilogy of films together. One of which we'll talk about later on. The other one being one also being Taxi Hunter as well. And Anthony Wong in the Ebola. It is such. Have you seen this movie? It is.
I haven't. No.
It is.
I've seen stills from it.
The premise of this film is so insane. You gotta love it. Okay, we're going back. Anthony Wong's character commits a crime. He kills some people, flees to Africa, right? Okay. To hide away, kills some people there. Has an intimate moment with how did I say? A person who has passed away, who happens to have Ebola.
No.
Then himself gets infected with Ebola, but is immune to it and doesn't realize it. So he's got Ebola, he's immune to it, doesn't realize it, and he goes, you know what? I'm going to go fly back to Hong Kong. He arrives back in Hong Kong, infected with Ebola, and people everywhere start dropping dead. So people are running around wearing hazmat suits, and he just keeps committing those despicable acts known to man. And he realizes no one can hurt him because he's got Ebola, and anybody gets close gets Ebola and starts puking blood and vomiting and bleeding out of their eyes sockets and everything. So he commits crimes. at one point people are trying to approach him with hazmat suits and he's spitting on them and everything else, so they get like, you know, because he's like, you're getting Ebola, you can't kill me. It's a completely batshit crazy, violent, politically incorrect film, and I love it.
It sounds amazing.
It is batshit crazy, and it's the kind of film that would never, ever, 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 ever get made in the West. There's no way that movie will ever. And like you know, I'll tell you one thing, man. I'll tell you one thing. As soon as COVID-19 started hitting in Hong Kong, I saw a lot more copies of the Ebola Syndrome in stores here.
That's funny.
I mean, you've got exploitation film. You've got distributor going, oh, there's a virus going. This is a good time to put out our exploitation film about him getting infected. It's completely insane.
That happened here with Outbreak. You remember that movie with like Morgan Freeman? Yeah, that started showing up everywhere in the U.S. when COVID-19 hit. But your movie sounds way more fun.
Oh, dude, Ebola Syndrome is such a crazy film, and Anthony Wong is like, he's so fantastic, and he's great at playing the bad guy, and he literally, I think, is he's my favorite Hong Kong actor by far. He's so talented. He's a great dude. And yeah, he's really great in that. Herman Yao's direction is really cool because he's got this brutal form of directing, really stylized, really brutal. He doesn't only do that stuff. He can do more like softer, interesting, like not interesting, sorry, softer, like, you know, maybe more romantically tinted films, whatever. But Herman, or comedies is more what else would you do. But Herman has a hardcore eye for making stuff, and I think he had such a good rapport with Anthony Wong that they knew what they were doing making these movies, and they are awesome fun. So Ebola Syndrome, Mount number 5.
What order did they come out in?
I'm not 100% sure, but they all came out around the early 90s. I'd have to double check the order, and they all came out with pretty close to one another. So it kind of was like, I guess you could say De Niro Scorsese type thing going on. You know, he like they locked on and they made these movies, and they made quite a few of them. So and those they made this trilogy.
Category
category 3.
Right?
All of them are category 3. So they were like, yeah, we can get away with this.
So those movies, because I don't know a ton about like the rating system. Can they only show in like certain theaters or?
So here's how category 3 works. Category 3, basically Hong Kong needed a rating system, and category 3 is, I guess it's kind of hard to translate it because I guess it's lies somewhere between R and an NC-17. So we don't really have, I think it's kind of like vague how it's put together, but if you're category 3, like you're not, if you want to go in the cinema, how old was I? I was 32 trying to get in the cinema, and they were like, oh, show us your ID card. I'm like, no. Why? Because you can't be underage for this. I'm like, okay, I'm not that young looking, but okay. But basically they take it super seriously. You get to see those films. So most cinemas will carry them because a lot of people like to go watch them. Like, because, you know, there's it's kind of a fun, crazy edge to them. Anything can happen. But again, like, so cinemas do carry them, but they're very stringent with checking your ID cards and everything else. But these movies make money, man. And internationally, those films tend to do pretty damn well. So especially the trilogy I mentioned just now.
Where there's more lax, like, rating regulations too.
Yeah, I mean, and like and horror fans, like, let's, in terms of a bit of producer talk here, horror has a huge built-in audience.
Yeah.
So when it comes to stuff like that, I think people will seek out stuff like that because this, like the Anthony Wong, Herman Yao films, I mean, they get really gruesome. We'll talk more about it later on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay. All right.
An alternate for, if you like Ebola Syndrome, you like Anthony Wong being freaking crazy on film, but not in a Herman Yao film, you got to check out a film called Love to Kill, in which he plays an abusive spouse. And eventually his wife runs away, and he kind of chases her down, almost like a serial killer type thing. But like, he is so crazy in that film, and in the end of the film includes everything like having a spike through the eye, and he's like, oh, it's crazy. But if you want to see something really, really crazy with Anthony Wong as well, Love to Kill. There's other films like Daughter of Darkness and everything else, but Love to Kill is Love to Kill is I guess an alternate if you've seen all the Herman Yao, Anthony Wong films. But Ebola Syndrome, that is,
I have to see this movie as soon as I can. It sounds incredible.
Yeah. It's wild. It's crazy.
So continuing the trend of crazy people killing people, we have Dr. Lamb.
Dr. Lamb. Okay, so a bit of history lesson here. Dr. Lamb is based on a true story. Hong Kong is a very is a society where we don't have a high crime rate here. We really, really don't. So when a serial killer shows up, it's kind of like, you know, a real glitch in the system. We don't see it very, very much. And Dr. Lam is a true story about a Hong Kong cab driver who was picking women up and butchering them, taking photographs of them, and then having them and he got caught because he took photographs of all these bodies.
And he's having them developed.
Then he had him developed, and the development guy was like, "Oh, this looks a bit freaking weird." And he went, "Hey, police! I think there's a madman killing people." So, and then the cops were like, "Holy shoot, this guy's a maniac." Interesting thing about this film, it's really interesting we brought up Category 3 because Hong Kong cinema looks down on swearing quite a bit. Okay. So you can't say a word like "Dule Lomo" in a Hong Kong film very easily. And Dr. Lam is interesting because you literally have Simon Yam as the star of the film, brilliant actor as well. He's also been in a bunch of Johnny To films. You know, if they're a Johnny To film, they're generally like one of the better actors in Hong Kong. Yeah. So he's in the film, and there's parts of the film where he's like sawing women's breasts off with a saw. He's like, you know, there's blood splattering on the windows. He's howling at the moon while he chops bodies up and everything else. Most violent shit possible. But at one point, Ken Chang's in the film as well. So,
is he really?
Yeah. It's so everybody's at the party. Everybody's cool. And at one point, Ken Chang swears, and he says, I think he says "Dule Lomo," and then basically they in the DVD copies I had, because I bought 2 DVD copies of it in the past, because I lost one during a move somehow, but one box of DVDs went missing all of a sudden. And in both copies, when he says "Dule Lomo," they bleep it out.
No.
In the movie, but you can have someone sawing people in half and blood and guts on the walls and howling at the moon while you're covered in blood, but don't you swear. That's wrong. And that was a Category 3 rated film. So even that went too far for the rating board. Like, we can have all this stuff, but don't you freaking say that bad word. It's super strange. Also, when you hear Hong Kong people talk in the street, they swear like truckers. I've lived in many countries. People here swear so much. It's like, "Oh, Pokaya, do that," like all this shit. Like, you hear it all the time. You hear a Hong Kong cab driver. Oh my God, you know, cab with a Hong Kong cab driver, and he's yelling and cussing and effing and jeffing the whole way through. You know what I'm saying? So
that's amazing.
It's very strange that the rating system doesn't has a major issue with swearing, but not sawing a human body in half. So yeah. Very weird.
I mean, it's not as extreme as that in the US, but there is for instance, the MPAA has there's a list of you can say fuck twice, I think, and then it's R. Yeah. If you say it once, it's okay, and it's But then you can have a PG-13 movie with decapitations and
it's weird. I think it shows that some of the rating boards are not really made up of filmmakers, right?
So yeah. Well, have you seen that documentary about the MPAA?
No, I haven't. No, but I'd be interested in seeing that though.
It's crazy because the guy actually he goes to the building where they rate films. And he tries to follow people home, and there's all these security guards, and you don't even know who's rating the movie. It's totally insane.
I guess they take their job really seriously.
Really serious, yeah. So I guess we can go right into the next one then.
Well, actually, no. One more thing about Doctor. Two more things about Doctor. The second thing is the same director who directed Haunted Karaoke directed Dr. Lam, Billy Tang, and again, Dr. Lam, as crazy as it sounds, all this violence and blood and guts, is actually shot kind of well.
Okay.
It's got some interesting cinematography again. So Billy Tang has an eye. Now, if you like a film I almost put on here instead of Dr. Lam, but I didn't. I chose Dr. Lam because of the fact that it was based on a real life serial killer, and that they made a movie about him. I mean, I guess America has the Ted Bundys and all that stuff they made movies about.
Yeah.
So this will be our version of that. But there's another film that Billy Tang also did called Run and Kill. And
I've heard of this movie. Yeah,
Run and Kill it's not really a horror. It's more of a triad film. There's a lot of really fucking crazy elements in there that were really violent, and they borderline on the horror thing. It's about a guy who basically gets drunk one night, complains about his wife, says, "Oh yeah, I hate my wife. Oh man, it'd be better off if she was dead." And some guy takes him literally goes off, murders a dude's wife, and goes, "Oh, now you owe us a tremendous amount of money." And basically, it's called, and this guy ends on the run. And there's a very brutal scene with decapitating in which a bird corpse gets decapitated and everything else. It's people get set on fire. There's brutal scenes, but again, Simon Yam. It's one that I think it's another film where Simon Yam acts as a total psychopath. Like he is the threat in that film. You know what I'm saying? So the two films in which Simon Yam is at his craziest is Dr. Lamb and Run and Kill. And Run and Kill is like, it's almost like they tailored that to be a Category 3 film. Like every rule they can break is in that movie, I reckon.
Well, now I want to see it.
Crazy movie. Run and Kill if you can find it.
I think I found a copy of that recently.
Apparently, it's done pretty well overseas, Run and Kill. Okay. So, and I was at Film Art one year, and this one guy walked up to me and goes, "Oh my!" He's a guy who holds a license for it. He goes, or works for the company, holds a license for it, and they were like, "Yeah, man, people keep wanting to get licenses for Run and Kill," and because I think when you see that movie, you go, "Holy shit, this is a sleazy, violent, crazy bit of stuff," and it's a lot of fun. So, yeah, just don't eat your lunch before, and don't watch it, like, because there's some scenes in that which are really, really brutal.
Okay. So yeah. Well, that's a fair warning for me then. If I watch it soon, I won't have anything to eat beforehand.
Yeah, no. That film, there's a couple scenes that made me go, "Oh wow, that's really brutal." So yeah.
Well, speaking of eating,
and real life,
Untold Story.
Have you seen Untold Story?
I haven't actually, but I've basically been told the entire plot of this movie by people before. It's a movie that I like. I don't watch a ton of horror movies, and sometimes I hear about them and I get a little. There's some trepidation of like, I don't know if it's going to freak me out too much.
So Untold Story, I got quite a bit to talk about this. So Untold Story, again, Anthony Wong, Herman Yao, back again. So basically it's part of their trilogy. So it's Untold Story, Taxi Hunter, and Ebola Syndrome. So those are the three big like films. They have more films together, but these are the three ones that like, you know, are really, they really did together. And Untold Story, again, based on a true story. But this time it took place in Macau, which is not so far. It's like an hour-long ferry ride. It's another SAR, another country outside of Hong Kong.
Okay.
It took place in Macau. It's basically about somebody who murdered an entire family and allegedly ground them up and turned them into pork buns, or in this case, human pork buns, which is another name it's sometimes known as. I think the Chinese title, The Untold Story, kind of translates to that. And basically, like, it's rumored that he fed these buns to the police and everything else. So, but there's all these stories that come around it. But it most certainly happened. And I've actually seen that now the restaurant where this all happened is still there in Macau, and no one's rented it ever since.
Oh wow!
And I've actually seen that place in real life. We needed some footage for it because Mike Leader and myself have been working on a documentary for years called Neon Grindhouse, which is all about Hong Kong exploitation cinema. And I needed some footage, some shots of the outside of that because we're going to have someone talk about the case and everything else now that released Hong Kong cinema. So I went down there to get a shot of the outside of this place in Macau. And I will tell you something, man. I love horror, but I do not believe in the supernatural at all. I don't believe in ghosts and all that stuff. But that place gave me the freaking chills, man. It is an ominous looking place. And we just needed some shots of the front of it, and we were filming that, the people around there had this look on their face like, you sons of everybody knows what happened there. Like there is no misunderstanding what happened there. But Anthony Wong, he actually won an acting award for this film. So his acting is phenomenal, and he is crazy as all hell in that movie. But again, delightful guy in real life. But like, yeah, he's just a really genuinely good actor. So, but
is the building, like, why didn't it get torn down? Is it like in a bigger building, or?
It's part of a bigger building. So if you wanted to tear that part down, you'd have to take down everything around it. And it's an area where there's all these other restaurants next to it. It would, to tear that down would be impossible. So what they just chose to shut the damn thing and forget about it. But it's there, and it's got this really creepy rustic metal gate in front of it, and then if you walk around the back, you see the back end of the place as well, and that looks it's in the neighborhood. It's kind of grimy. Dude, it is a creepy place. So
sounds very creepy.
It's really cool. But if we're gonna talk about eating people, we've got to talk about as you do, we got to talk about Choi Hark, because Choi Hark also made a cannibal film called We're Going to Eat You.
Oh, and I actually got that movie recently. Like, I bought a box set of called Kung Fu Zombies. Yeah, and it's in there.
Yeah. So, and that basically is a weird kung fu movie featuring really people again sawed in half and eaten up and everything else. Cannibalism is not that. They've been sequels to the Untold Story and everything else, and I guess cannibalism is not that. As in kung fu films, I can only think of, like, say, Thundering Mantis, in which the main protagonist eats the person he beats up. But like, but the crazy movie, Thundering Mantis, the end of that is amazing. Anyhow, but like basically in this film, like there's people getting sawed to death, super bloody and everything else. But again, like it's Choi Hark. He's kind of a comic booky guy. I mean, he went to film school in America, so he's an American horror sensibility.
Right, I think I read that recently, like in Texas. Is that right?
Yeah. He went there. What's fun about him was he's like, yep, that's true. I asked him about this. He originally went. His parents sent him there, to learn about like I think he's learning to be a pharmacist or something like that. He's some sort of med thing, and he's like, he rolled himself out. He went out of that course and enrolled himself in the film course instead. That's awesome. It worked out well. He's the Steven Spielberg of Hong Kong in the 80s, and he's still active today. So, but he that movie is mental as well. Like it's super, super crazy. So
check that out. I just watched The Master the other day.
Oh, right.
Movie. Right, yeah.
I've seen that movie.
I think maybe you have.
Yeah. But if you want to get really crazy, if you want to talk about something that would never, ever, ever happen in America in terms of movie, get this. Okay, so after Untold Story came out, it was a massive hit, right? After like basically, so Untold Story was going to be a massive hit. Was a massive hit. Dr. Lamb, massive hit. Both based on real life serial killers. All right, so Dr. Lamb, Hong Kong. Macau, you've got the Untold Story. So Wong Jing steps in and goes, ooh, I am Wong Jing. I have an idea. I will capitalize on this. So what did Wong Jing do? Wong Jing made a film called, I almost put this on the list, but Untold Story is higher, called The Underground Banker. This film is so insane that if you I didn't know how to begin. So it stars Anthony Wong, who's a truck driver, and his wife decides she wants to buy a whole bunch of like nice stuff. So she deals with underground bankers, aka loan sharks, in order to get a whole bunch of cash. And then she goes out and she spends and she buys and everything else. And what happens is, oh my God, she can't pay him back. It's like, oh, Jesus. So the loan sharks go crazy and turn her into a prostitute, and then eventually, she ends up sleeping with Anthony Wong's friends because of all that stuff. Oh. But eventually, she doesn't want to do it anymore. So what they do is he finds out about this. He goes, "Oh, this is awful," and then he goes, "No, please, let my wife go. I don't want to be a prostitute anymore." Eventually, they do horrible shit to him as well and all that stuff. And then basically, he can't take it anymore. And just as things are at their worst, they firebomb his house with his wife and child inside. His wife burns to death. No. His child becomes like this mangled corpse on a bed with a claw hand. And basically he decides to get revenge. And the whole time while this film is taking place, his next door neighbor turns out to be based on Dr. Lamb, who in this movie world has been actually released from prison and he becomes friends with. So imagine an American movie in which Ted Bundy miraculously gets released from prison, and a fictitious version ends up in a movie, and then he becomes a friend of the main character.
Oh man.
So basically what happens is this is all terrible. And then Dr. Lamb, who's played by another actor, not Simon Yam in this, goes, "Oh, well, I was a serial killer beforehand." He goes, yeah, because he's scared him the whole time. He's like, "But I can help you get revenge." So he goes, "Okay, let's go get revenge." So then Anthony Wong and Dr. Lamb's character go get revenge. And while Anthony Wong's chasing after people, he's going, "Cha Siu Bao," and he reenacts his character from The Untold Story. So now you brought two of the Hong Kong's biggest serial killer characters hunting down triads and chasing them and castrating them and everything else. This film is so crazy. It's so politically incorrect. And I don't give a shit. It's awesome, man. So not a very much talked about story, but the very idea that they were like, oh, because Dr. Lamb is still alive today, by the way. There's no death penalty in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So the character from The Untold Story, he passed away because he committed suicide, but the actual Dr. Lamb's alive till today. There's every now and again is like, oh, will he get on probation and stuff like that? So that kind of plays into this. So
he's just sitting in prison somewhere.
Yeah, well, in Hong Kong, yeah, nowhere near me, I'll tell you that. Scary man. He's a creepy looking dude too. But but basically, imagine the idea of creating a fictitious version of him, put it in a fictitious world in which he was released, putting him in a movie and making him the good guy, who's helping out and going on his, and then it's like, we should be killers. Oh, I used to be a serial killer, people, but now I'm killing triads. So everything I'm doing is okay. It's such a crazy movie.
It's like he's making good, right? Yeah, he's using his skills for the people.
which is okay if he's a fictitious character, but it's based on a real person.
Oh
like
my
it's
God.
like making Ted Bundy the protagonist of your movie. You know, it's just like what is going on here?
I like thinking about like the brainstorming session for movies like that too. Like, oh, here's an idea.
It's Wong Jing, so God knows, but like it's like. But again, Wong Jing did, and the movie is awesome. Like I've always secretly hoped in the back of because we do audio commentaries for a lot of Blu-ray labels, like you know, and I've always hoped in the back of my mind that films like Dr. Lamb and The Untold Story. Oh, The Untold Story will get released. I mean, it already has been, but like a film like Underground Banker, I wish that would get a Blu-ray release, man. And the audio commentary we could do with that would be one. That's one of our like goldmine audio commentaries. Talk about wives walking. My wife walked into me watching that, and she was watching it and going like, oh, and she just sat down going, I don't want to see what happens next. This is so insane. Like, because the film just takes so many left turns all the time. You're going like, every 10 minutes something weird is happening. You're like, I was not expecting this, and it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier. And the ending is one of my favorite endings in any Hong Kong film ever. It's so fucking awesome.
I feel like I have to see this movie now. It's like
really hard to find. I think it's out on VCD here and there, but as far as I know, there's no available Blu-ray copy. I mean, and there's no available DVD copy even.
Okay.
So hard to find, but maybe it was at one point. But a lot of these films got very short releases, and right now it's becoming harder and harder to get DVDs in Hong Kong. So,
really?
But thankfully now Blu-ray labels are starting to jump up in Hong Kong that are releasing really obscure films, which delights me to no end.
Yeah, there was the one that you sent me on Instagram recently.
Yeah. So they're really Hong Kong Classics is what they're called, and they're putting out like some really crazy. I ordered a couple of them from there that I hadn't even seen yet before, and I've seen a lot of stuff, and I was like, this looks insane. So, but like it's but me and Mike Leader are just like, why are they these? It's awesome they're releasing like these movies. He mentioned Mike talked to me on the phone the other day. It's like, yeah, they're releasing like Raped by an Angel 3, and I'm like, what? The Raped by an Angel films are like these insane movies. And like they're releasing the third one of that, and I'm like, well, it's such a random movie to release, and it's so cool. But I'm so happy they're releasing some of the films there. We'll talk about this a bit more later on, so it'll come up again on the list later on. But Underground Banker, check that movie out, man. So crazy.
Okay,
and of course Dr. Lamb and Untold Story and
so should we move on to your next pick?
I think we should.
So next we have, and this is another one I haven't seen, shamefully, Biozombie.
Biozombie is awesome. Really, 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 really cool. Biozombie is a Hong Kong zombie movie directed by a very young Wilson Yip, who later on would go do the Ip Man films.
Yeah.
And apologies to anybody who worked on the Ip Man films, but I kind of regret that he did them, because I think Wilson Yip was one of the bright, young, independent stars of Hong Kong. He was making really interesting films. He eventually did SPL with Donnie Yen, which we did an audio commentary for as well. And then we did it for the Vengeance Pack TV.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then basically he did that, which was a stylized neo-noir like Hong Kong film, and eventually got picked up to the Ip Man films. I mean, he's making. I understand it's a paycheck and stuff like that as well, and like I really like the first Ip Man film, but like it's kind of a pity we lost that voice doing those films. I mean, who am I to say? I mean, it's up to him. But Biozombie is super cool because it's a 1998 Hong Kong zombie film. Really nicely shot in North Point. Maybe if you want, I'll try and get you footage of the mall where they shot that.
Oh wow!
At some point, because really, 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 really interesting film. Very comic booky zombie movie. Takes place in a mall. It's kind of like Dawn of the Dead in a Hong Kong mall. And Hong Kong malls are a lot smaller, but there's all these really cool pop culture things. Like there's video games. There's literally shots of actual video games in there, And it stars two guys who are pirating PlayStation games. And basically, what happens is like I think. This is in the movie. Some people from the Middle East come and they spike some Lucozade and turn it into a bioweapon, and then somebody accidentally drinks it and then goes into the mall, and everybody gets trapped in that mall together, and they're running around avoiding the zombies. So, but it's shot really well, really bright comic booky colors, really fun, crazy camera moves, and it stars a very young Lee Chan-sam, who is one of the nicest people I've ever met in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
Like in terms of actors and stuff like that. Like, and I met him in a club and I was like, oh my God, you're Lee Chan-sam. And I was like, we're talking about movies. I go, oh, I've seen Biozombie. You're great in that. And he goes, oh, Biozombie. And he does like the whole zombie thing. He goes, oh man, I love making that film, you know? And he was super, super like happy that like, you know, someone had seen Biozombie because he loved that movie. And it's a great movie, man. So
I
really,
love
really
zombie
fun.
movies. So now I really want to see this one.
But it's kind of like a Hong Kong comic booky zombie movie. And it's really cool. And look, if you want to see what a Hong Kong mall looks like, there you go. I mean, comparing, again, going back to my list, saying like, we've got like, you know, there are all Hong Kong elements to the films I chose. So this is a very good thing. Look at Dawn of the Dead and look at Biozombie. Dawn of the Dead is more money. But if you want to see what a Hong Kong mall looks like, a very traditional Hong Kong mall, there you go. So Biozombie is great. Now, alternatively, Wong Jing made a semi-sequel to it called Bio Cops. It's not as good, but you know, if you want to see a bit more Hong Kong zombie films, there is that option. So, and this is around the same time that Sam Lee also starred in Beast Cops along with Anthony Wong, which is one of my all-time favorite Hong Kong films. Unfortunately, there's another actor in it called Michael Wong, who is by far the rudest person I've ever met in Hong Kong.
Oh wow! Okay.
He was yeah, no, and I'll openly say it's known that like, yeah, Sam Lee in that is fantastic. In Biozombie, he's fantastic. And yeah, man, Sam Lee's also a rapper in Hong Kong sometimes.
Is he really?
Yeah, he has rapped with LMF, Lazy Motherfuckers, which is a Hong Kong rap crew.
That's a great name.
Yeah, LMF. Yeah, the LMF are like the biggest Hong Kong rap crew more or less ever. And some members went on later on to form 24 Herbs. And when they announced like their big coming out thing, Sam Lee has guested occasionally on there, and he also DJs under the name DJ Be Careful. So
I like that name.
Good guy. He loves music, and he skateboards as well. Really, really good guy. Really nice guy as well, and pretty good artist. And he's in a film called Dog Bite Dog, where he's amazing in that. Like, he's really showing off his acting chops. So good dude, nice guy. Biozombie is great. Biocops is not as great, and not a horror film, but if you want to check out Beast Cops, you want to really see a great Hong Kong triad film that really shows up Hong Kong, check out Beast Cops as well.
I think I have a copy of that movie and have watched parts
Amazing
of it,
movie.
but haven't finished it. Yeah, I'll have to finish that one. Yeah. Every time you say a movie title now, I'm thinking about the thing that you said about just taking words and sticking them together. So
yeah.
Taxi Hunter. I'm like, is Taxi Hunter Taxi Driver and Deer Hunter?
No. So Taxi Hunter is interesting. So Taxi Hunter is actually, that name is very significant. It's good you brought this up. So obviously Herman Yao and Anthony Wong were making exploitation films by which they exploit a certain audience. And at the time, Hong Kong taxi drivers were out of control. They were rude. Okay. They were like throwing up their fines out in the middle of nowhere. They were constantly doing stuff. Like, they're a bit better now, but back then they're really crazy. So people were really getting a hate for Hong Kong taxi drivers. So they made the movie Taxi Hunter, in which the beginning of the film starts with Anthony Wong's pregnant wife being run over by a taxi driver, and he decides to get revenge on all bad taxi drivers. So he gets in a cab and starts asking taxi driver stuff, and if they're polite to him, he lets them go. He goes, "You're a good taxi." If they're bad, he murders them. So yeah, yes. and there is a scene that references a taxi driver as well. We're standing from the mirror, going like, "You're looking at me, looking at me." Okay. So that's in there. So they kind of put that in there. And I think maybe that's why. But Taxi Hunter is a good film, man. And yeah, again, shot well, competently made. But yeah, Herman Yao and Anthony Wong. I can't stress how good that pairing is.
I have to see those movies. I haven't seen any of them, so
they're kind of like, I think, because the documentary Mike and I are doing, Neon Grindhouse thing, we've been working on it for years, and you know, we were making some good headway until like the current pandemic. Mm-hmm. But in the documentary we're doing is very much about, I think there's a lot of people say Hong Kong cinema and they see the Jackie Chan films and you know, all that stuff, which is a lot of stuff we've done audio commentaries for as well. So, you know, but then and Sammo Hung and all that stuff, which is like the action comedy stuff. But if you want to get to the nitty gritty of it, you want to go a layer under that, that's where Anthony Wong and Herman Yao and stuff like that are, and Simon Loy and all those people. So I think if you really want to get into Hong Kong cinema by watching these films, you learn more about them. And you also, look, by watching Untold Story, you learn a bit like of history in a weird way, because you learn, like, you know, what Hong Kong people find crazy and creepy through that. and by watching Taxi Hunter, you know, you see kind of what Hong Kong people at the time are thinking about taxi drivers. And if you like, well, Ebola syndrome has nothing to do with anything. That's just insane. But
it's like, just amazing though, right?
yeah. But basically you kind of get an idea of like, by watching a culture's horror films, you kind of learn a little bit about what their fears are and everything else. And I'll tell you one thing, man. I mean, Ebola syndrome was made before SARS, but SARS was a huge impact in Hong Kong. And now with COVID-19, that's a huge impact as well. So Hong Kong people are very like germophobic in a weird way, and rightfully so, because we're the most densely populated country.
It's so dense,
in the
right?
world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine any other country that's as densely populated as Hong Kong. So
it's interesting to hear all the context of the movies too, because I feel like a lot of times I see movies and I miss the cultural context and it doesn't land as hard. Yeah. So so should we move on to number one?
Yep. Move on to number one.
So there's multiple movies at number one, right? It's entries in a series.
It's a very important series in my mind. So it's the Troublesome Night series. So going back to what I said like 2 minutes ago, if you want to learn, if you both want to watch Hong Kong movies and learn something about Hong Kong, like feel what it's like, because I think a lot of people watch Hong Kong films and they gain a picture of what Hong Kong is like, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to get a picture of truly local aspects of Hong Kong, watch the Troublesome Night films. They are masterpieces in explaining what that is. Now, the Troublesome Night films are all directed by Herman. There are 19 of them, to be correct.
Whoa.
But the first 6 are considered by the people who know about this stuff, I guess, to be what really counts, because Herman Yao directed the first 6 of them. And all the films star Louis Ko Tin Lok.
Oh wow.
Louis Ko is like, you know, he's a producer now. He's really helped in terms of COVID-19. He's actually managed to give some people people in the acting community a little bit of money to survive as well.
I've heard that he's a really nice guy.
He's a super good dude. He and he's very active behind the scenes. He's not just an actor in front of the scenes. So he was involved in this, but he's young here. But I think it's kind of important to the development of him as an actor, because he got to try a lot of stuff. It's interesting. And there's another actor who no one outside of Hong Kong ever talks about, and this guy seriously needs to be recognized. His name is Simon Loy. He's known as, and when it comes to horror films, you have to talk about him because he's in Hong Kong known as the Ghost King.
Oh wow!
And
that's a great name.
Yeah, it's a great name. And this guy was in I think he made tons of movies. Like, even by Hong Kong movie actor standards, he made a lot of movies in the period that he was active. So he's also he writes ghost books. He had a radio show in which people call in and tell their ghost stories. He acted in ghost movies, you know, and some of his books were turned into ghost movies in which he acted in again.
That's great.
So he's a really interesting character, and he's in all these early Troublesome Night films. And the Troublesome Night films really, as I mentioned before, that parts 1, 3, 5, and 6 are better. 2 is okay, because with 1 they kind of got the idea formula. And all these films, by the way, except part 6, are the 3 movies in 1, 3 stories in 1. So they're anthology films. Okay. But all the stories are interconnected though. So a character will appear in one story and go through the other, and eventually, when you get to the end of it, all the stories kind of like tie each other up in a nice little bow most of the time. Troublesome Night 1, they kind of launched it, which is quite cool. Troublesome Night 2, they kind of refined their footing, and some of it's really good, some of it's really bad. There's a really insane motorcycle sequence in that one. I'm sure someone wiped out for real and they kept it in the movie. I'm talking to Mike Leader about this recently. We're like, that looks real. They would anyhow. And then Troublesome Night 3 is like, I watch it. My wife has been watching these. I've been rewatching them probably. My wife has been watching them with me. And Troublesome Night, she says, for example, Troublesome Night 2, she goes, it's kind of got more creeping stuff, but Troublesome Night 3 is really off-putting because some of the scenes are really like kind of lighthearted until the final moment. You're like, oh my God, that's messed up. Oof. So Troublesome Night 3 is really dark. Troublesome Night 4 didn't really hit the spot for me. Troublesome Night 5, it's really fun because it follows Simon Lloyd for part of it as being a cab driver driving through Hong Kong, and he runs into all these crazy situations. So it's really, really fun. Troublesome Night 6 is Ko Tin Lok as the star, and that's a whole film in which he follows like a girl in a red dress, which is a very common thing in Hong Kong ghost films, seeing a girl in a red dress. You see them in a lot of Troublesome Night films as well. Okay. It's a common trope. But the Troublesome Night films, look, if you want to see Hong Kong and feel Hong Kong and the streets and kind of really get a look at the culture. Sometimes you want to understand it. And if anybody doesn't understand, they can Instagram me, hyperobot, whatever, okay. But I'll explain it to you. But if you really want to get like a feel for like some of Hong Kong's culture in terms of like, you know, what's going on and enjoy yourself through film, the Troublesome Night films, man, my A+ recommendation. So
and those, I really think good. Some of them are on Blu-ray, right? Like recently they were.
Oh yeah, recently that same label has been putting these numbers 1 to 3 are on Blu-ray right now. So okay. I think part 1's another label. 2 and 3 came out on Blu-ray recently right now. And I'll tell you one thing about the Troublesome Night. I love them so much. I actually I know some of the right holders, and I wrote a treatment for rebooting the Troublesome Night franchise. Oh, wow. And they were actually considering it. They were like, "Oh, this is kind of interesting. Like, you know, take it a little bit of a new direction, but even go as far as like we'd redo the theme tune and everything else, and do the 3 movies in one anthology films again, because there's 19 of them, and they kind of went dormant for a while because they made a lot, and we were going to reboot the whole series.
That's a lot. Yeah, 19.
They're still very popular. I mean, you can still see them on TV every now and again and stuff like that. But and yeah, that was going to happen. And then COVID-19 unfortunately happened. But it was a discussion that was happening. But a treatment exists out there for rebooting the Troublesome Night films. So
we'll just get some momentum behind it on social media, right?
Yeah, it would be awesome. I mean, and going back to Simon Loy, really nice dude. Like basically, we were trying to get him for the documentary, and people kind of knew we were doing it. And I was like, how do I get a hold of this guy? Because I think he was in China at the time, mainland China, not in Hong Kong, doing some business. And I was like, and he's kind of like not super easy, because after the sad thing is Hong Kong ghost films took a major dip now because they're aiming for the mainland China market, and ghost films are not legal in the mainland.
Yeah,
China.
I remember someone when I was in film school in LA, we took like a film business class. And there was a whole section of it about international distribution, and we went over like the China and the like what can't be released there and stuff like that.
Yeah, and ghost films are nothing, but slowly and surely some stuff is now coming back. So because I think, you know, because of Netflix and everything else, they could probably brought to, because first they were focused on mainland China. Okay, it's not their bag, it's not what they're interested in, so they stopped making them. But now slowly but surely, like through the Netflixes and maybe hopefully the Shutters and everything else. If anyone from Shutter is here, I'd love to put you in touch with some of the people who own the rights to these films, by the way. But it's like no, but slowly but surely, like these things, they're starting to make more ghost films now. But anyway, I tried to get hold of Simon Loy, so I went to one of the old production companies that work with him. I go, hey, like I'd love to get Simon for an interview. You know, it'd be really great to catch up with him. And he's the Ghost King. I respect him so much. Like, you know, I've seen his movies, I named his films, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. Well, yeah, give us your number, and you know, if we can get a hold of him, we'll call you. I'm like, oh, okay. It was kind of like that. I was like, all right. So I left the place and I went into the MTR with some metro station, like, and 30 minutes later, everybody pick up the phone and go, yeah. He goes, oh, hi, Arne, this is Simon. Heard you're looking for me. I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, it's me, Simon. I go, the Ghost King? He goes, that's me. Yes, who is this? Oh, I'm doing this documentary. He's like, oh, cool. And he chatted with me about ghost films. He goes, all those films are awesome to make and everything else. And yeah, and we're supposed to go up to China to go interview him, but unfortunately, because of we can't cross the border right now. So,
oh yeah.
But yeah, no, but really nice guy, excellent English, really, really, really friendly.
That's really funny. It's like,
another story. Yeah, another. But it's so random. Like, who's this? And he goes, it's Simon. But he called me like 20 minutes after I left the thing. And apparently, someone's like, oh yeah, like my friend, he works there. He says there's some guy who really likes Hong Kong movies, but it was really fun because I acted really aloof when dealing with me, and then like called me up 20 minutes later. But that's Hong Kong sometimes, you know. It's not too hard to get to people sometimes. So that was really great. But another weird story I have about the Troublesome Night films was I was at Hong Kong Film Art one year. And I was just walking around and I see Herman Yao. And Herman Yao's, of course, done all these Taxi Hunter films and everything else, a trilogy. But he's also done Troublesome Night. I run up to him and go, oh, Herman Yao. Oh, great. Oh, Arne, Venema, great to meet you. Everything. And like, you know, and he's like, oh, cool. You see my movies. He goes, what movies of mine you seen? He's like, well, you know, I've seen your trilogy, but I love your Troublesome Night films. And he gave me the most puzzled look ever. He goes, you've seen the Troublesome Night films? I go, yeah, they're great. And he goes, wow, he genuinely was surprised that I'd seen, like,
that's great.
I go to and I start talking about him, and like but again, Herman Yao was really cordial, really friendly, really approachable when I met him. So yeah, it was really great. So yeah, we were supposed to interview him for one of the Blu-rays again, but again, you know, the global situation.
Yeah.
But anyhow, but all that stuff will be rectified. It'll come back. It'll be good soon. But that was really good. Again, if you're interested in Simon Loy, he's done a couple other films as well. He did one called what's it called? He did Nightmare Precinct 7, which is a really good like ghost film that he did. Really great. You can check that out. He also did. He also was in a Donnie Yen film called Ballistic Kiss as well, which is a really weird Donnie Yen.
I haven't seen that one.
It's really well. It's quite the movie. I'm not quite sure what kind of movie it is, but it's quite the movie. And he's in that as a radio DJ. He's been in tons of ghost films as well. I mean, like he literally was the Ghost King and everything else. But if you want to see other ghost films, also check out Sleeping with the Dead. It's also a really interesting ghost film. It kind of is because a lot of them are kind of hokey, but that one's kind of got.
Is it what it sounds like? Is it people sleeping with dead people?
It's about it stars Jordan Chan. Who's also in Biozombie, and basically like people die and somehow they end up like revisiting him and everything else. So kind of a dark film, but interesting nonetheless. Like so, but there's tons of crazy Hong Kong ghost films out there as well. But
it sounds like it barely scratched the surface of the Hong Kong ghost film world.
So if you want to get in the Hong Kong ghost film, start with Simon Loy. He is the key. He's the gatekeeper at all good Hong Kong ghost stuff, you know. Not everything he's been in is perfect, but the Troublesome Night films. Look, if you want to see something different, check out Troublesome Night films. And the Hong Kong anthology film thing is actually really popular. So Troublesome Night films did well. So then they did a bunch of this weird period in which they did anthology ghost films based around offices, like work, like salaryman offices. Yeah. So there's one called Haunted Office out there as well. So it's like everything in a haunted office. And then there's a ghost office as well. So that's like a subgenre of ghost films based in offices. And these weird anthology films. It's really strange. But they're fun. But it's like, I didn't think that'd be a subgenre, but I guess so, because people work in offices. So
they want to see haunted offices, right?
Yeah. Because my office is haunted. Well, people work really late and it gets kind of dark outside here.
Spooky, right? Yeah.
Yeah, spooky. Yeah. But yeah, the horror anthology thing, you know, is a big thing. 3 films in one and everything else. So 24-Hour Ghost Story, also directed by Wilson Yeep, is another one like that. So a lot of people have made these kind of things. So yeah, that's that is it for my top 10 list.
Your top 10, yeah.
Yeah, and some extra stuff as well. So there you go. So hopefully anybody who hears this can go off and
find hundreds of movies to watch. Hell yeah, I'm excited. I have a big list. Yeah. So are you, besides the documentary, are you working on any other horror stuff at the moment, or?
Well, it was announced pre-COVID. Like basically everything I'm working on got moved to 2021, right? I mean, I was working on directing. I was going to direct a feature film, a horror feature film with, which was being produced by Pedro Lopez, who did Maria, and Mike Leader, who's my partner in crime and like many audio commentary, and has also produced films with Van Damme and, you know, worked on like things like the third Mummy film and everything else. So and it was called Noriko, and it was basically a zombie film. I can't say too much about it here, but it was gonna be a lot of good fun, and we were so far down the line. We had cast, we had like lined up and everything else, some local cast, some international cast, and everything else. And unfortunately, the air got let out of the tires. But we will rise from the grave and be back. So, and I wrote that film. I wrote that film actually with my writing partner, who's a man named Joe Farello, who we always mention.
Who always comes up in the commentaries. Who is this guy?
Joe Farello takes no prisoners. Joe Farello is a cult figure in Hong Kong who basically. He was in a lot of commercials. He was in some movies. There's a Hong Kong film out there in which Joe Farello plays the voice of Michael Bay on a radio. So like, it's so batshit crazy. Yes. And Joe Farello has this crazy like New York. He's like, hey, this is Joe Farello. I mean,
he sounds like the name. I feel like he's got to be from New Jersey or something.
Yeah, he's from Long Island, New York. He's an insane character. So I think there's so many if you ask Mike Leader about Joe Farello, Mike Leader like he loves him to bits. Like it's just like the stuff that like was happened with Joe over the years. If you ever want me to get someone on a podcast, I'd love to come back on the podcast and bring Joe with me.
Oh yeah, that sounds incredible. Yeah,
the stories we can tell you about being in the industry, because my background is I've done commercials and music videos and everything else too. So like, and I've had Joe on those sets sometimes, and Joe's actually starred in a lot of commercials in Hong Kong. He's been in some movies and everything else, and I mean, the things that guy's got away. For example, at one time, there's a TV channel here called ATV. And at one point, the big thing about this show was they used to get like Westerners who spoke fluent Cantonese to come on the show and like, you know, talk with the host. And it was a live variety show. So they asked Joe, and Joe just moved to Hong Kong, and he's standing around the club yelling out "Osiko Ganton," which means "I speak Cantonese." That being the only sentence he knows in Cantonese.
Yes.
So so what happens is Joe gets asked by some producer on the show who's very polite, say, "Hey, we do this variety show where we get Westerners to come on here who speak perfect Cantonese. Would you like to come on and just like chat with our hosts and stuff like that while we talk about like, you know, whatever subjects?" And he's like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Okay, cool." And then basically I knew about this show. I was like, "Joe, you can't do that show. Why?" Because the only words you know is "I speak" in Cantonese is "I speak Cantonese." That's it. He's like, no, I'll figure it out, man. I'm sure they realize what's going on and they'll figure something out. And, you know, I'll learn some sentences in the weekends. And if they say something, maybe we'll just respond with that. I'm like, but you don't know what they're saying. Like, so basically what happens is like, okay, fine, I'll watch this happen. So like, you know, the weekend goes by and the week comes and the show comes on television and Joe's sitting on the couch on this live variety show. We're all watching. We're like, what the hell is going? Because he's my friend and I love him to bits, and he was also like the best groomsman at my wedding, and he's one of my best friends in the whole world. He's a writing partner, and I love him to bits. But my God, like he's standing there and he's on this show, and they turn to him and they ask him a whole bunch of shit in Cantonese, and he just goes,
Yes.
And they're like, I'm like, they didn't check if he speaks Cantonese. They only heard him say, "I speak Cantonese," and they keep asking questions, and he keeps just going, "Yep," like whatever. On live television. And what happened was, he eventually like they had a commercial break because they think, and the producer walked up, they go, "You don't speak any Cantonese?" So he goes, "Nah." So basically for the rest of the show, they cut back and he's sitting on the couch and he's just like sitting there in between people nodding like this and not saying a damn thing. And then eventually, I think he got banned from ATV for life for that.
Did he really?
Yeah. We're trying to get
amazing.
We have something in the works. I kind of want to try and get him back on ATV because apparently they still talk about that story down there. They're like, "Did you hear this crazy story?" And years later, a friend of mine who was working in the States in LA, some people from Hong Kong came over and they were asked, and he knows Joe. And so people were like, "Yeah, have you ever heard about this crazy Guilo meaning white guy? This crazy Guilo came on our TV network and was like, you know, he didn't speak a word of Cantonese, but he just kept nodding and everything else." And then our friend just went, "Nah, I never heard. Don't know who that is." He's like, "Never heard of him." No. And he calls him, "God damn it. Okay, it's gotten all the way to LA, that story." So yeah.
So good. Oh. And you if you get him back on there, you could make the documentary about his return from his fall.
Oh, dude, like not his fall. He moved to New York because his wife got another job and they went down there. But he still writes with me, and he's written stuff professionally before. He's an excellent writer. He's a phenomenal actor. We've definitely got a part. He's definitely gonna have a part in Noriko as well. So we'll bring him down from the States. But if you ever want to do a podcast with somebody who's been through all sorts of wildness in Hong Kong, and we can tell you a whole bunch of crazy stories about working here and everything else, you should try and get me and Joe on at the same time. Maybe
that sounds great. Yeah.
I'm sure he'll do it. Like if I say, "You want to be on a podcast?" Like, "Yeah, sure, man." So, okay. But Joe Farello, we mentioned every single audio commentary because there's never-ending stories of it. And my goal is to make Joe Farello as famous as possible. Yes. So it's just because his stories have to be told. Like it's just and Mike, if you ever get Mike on, ask Mike Leader how he met Joe Farello. And I found Joe Farello. That's how I met him. I was at there was a 48-hour film festival here in Hong Kong, which you get 40 hours to make a short film.
Okay.
And basically, like, it was after the festival and everything, all the awards had been handed out. And then I'm sitting at a table and I'm drinking this horrible lychee martini, which somehow was the theme of the festival. And all of a sudden I feel something in my feet and I pick something up off the floor. And there's a dude under my table, like completely passed out. And I prop him up on the thing next to me and go, "Hey, man, are you all right? Like, what's your name?" He goes, "Oh, I'm Joe Farello." I'm like, "Okay." And that's kind of how I met him. I found him on the floor under my table. That's like
the best story about meeting someone ever.
Yeah. And basically, like what happened was Mike Chan was sitting next to me. He goes, "Hey, who's this?" He goes, "Oh, apparently it's Joe Farello." And he goes, "Oh, hi." He goes, "Oh, hi." We kind of became friends with him while drinking these lychee martinis.
That's
and then
amazing.
What happened is, as we were taking, and then one was like, "Yo, man, where do you live, man? We should put you in a cab or something like that." And he's like, "Oh, I live." He gave us this weird address, and Mike's like, "Okay, let's pick up this guy, put him in a cab." And Mike Chan had just bought. I shouldn't tell this story, but Mike Chan just bought a pair of new shoes, and he's like, "Look at my shoes! Look at my pretty freaking shoes! I bought this by working on so movie and everything else. Yeah, they're really pretty, Mike." So we walked toward a cab, and as Joe's getting in the cab, he's like, "Hey, bye, guys." Joe leans forward and vomits all over Mike's shoes.
Yes,
you fucking expensive as hell shoes. And Mike's like, "Nah, not the shoes, not the shoes." So it's like, I mean, stuff like that, you know. I mean,
you can't make it up.
No, you can't make the show up. And it kind of we became best friends with him after that for some reason.
That's
and Mike always brings his shoes up and stuff like that. But it's like, and it's kind of how he met me and Mike on the stage. So he met me by like, I found him on the table. He met Mike by throwing up on his shoes.
Well, I'll have to ask him about his shoes if I talk to.
Yeah, it's like, hey, just be like, hey, has anybody ever thrown up on your shoes before? You'll be like, oh, come on, that's what it said. How do you know that story? I don't know if you put this up beforehand, but it's he's a good dude. So he's part, and we're all part of a crew called CFK. So Crazy Column.
But yeah, you have the YouTube, right? Yeah, I think I saw some of the videos on YouTube. Yeah, we
have a you can see a bit of Joe on there eating like like over expired octopus and thinking it's a black pepper and stuff like green pepper on there and stuff like that. So, but if you ever get Mike Leader on here, which I think you will, ask him how he met Joe, because everybody's story about how they met Joe is unique.
And then we can do a compilation video of how you met Joe's stories.
Yeah, no, because it's never normal. I'll tell you that. So yeah.
Okay.
Anyhow, so yeah, that is it. That is it for a bit of stories of Joe Furlow. But if you ever want to get him on there, I'm sure you can get him. He's a lot of fun.
He sounds
and he's in New York as well. So
less of a time difference. Yeah.
So, time difference between here in New York is like 12 hours or something like that.
It's crazy. Yeah, I remember I lived in Tokyo, and it was always this thing of like, because my parents are on the East Coast, it's like, well, I can talk to you right before I go to bed or right after I wake up.
Yeah. What time is it there? Because here it's like, oh my God, it's 2:00 already here. Well,
it's 11 p.m. here.
Oh, that's okay. Still, that's so
it's not like super late, but yeah.
All right, man.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. Yeah, this has been great.
Oh, no problem, man. Like, I love talking about movies. Like, if you ever want me on again, I'll gladly do it again.
That would be great. So, let's do it.
Cool.
Okay.
Really cool.
All right.